we're either going to have a business or a clean house. Like, we're not going to have both. But at least we have a business and not a clean house.
This week, I've invited an early stage founder to the Unbox Studios so we can hear the story so far, and they have the opportunity to tell me where they need help in their business. So how do you split your time between your child making the ceramics and running the business?
Just doing as much as I physically can without crying every day.
Aww.
In like the best way.
This week, I'm speaking to Mollie Michelle, the founder of Naetive Studios. She creates gorgeous and unique handmade mugs.
I was a bit naive going into something that I'd never done before with no experience. I was able to learn a lot quicker by making those mistakes.
If you know too much, I think that's a poison pill. She started making her products during COVID, and after her first maternity leave, decided to take it full time.
Mollie May shared us once 40,000 people on the website and like nothing to sell. That triggered
40,000 people.
Yeah.
In this episode, we really get into the thick of what the first few years of a business is like in 2024 and where she can take it from here. When did you quit?
As soon as I realized that like every drop was selling out within about 5 minutes, there was never going to be any growth if I had that mindset of like, I'm just going to do it all myself.
But it's funny that women are the only ones who have these kinds of skills. Do you think your partner has that skill?
I think.
Welcome to Unboxed. I'm your host, Connie Nam, the founder of Astrid and Miyu. In these conversations, I speak to founders, investors, and creators who are all breaking boundaries in their space to discover the person behind the brand and what it took for them to build their empires. Hey there, Unboxed listeners. We want to take a second to shine the spotlight on Payhawk, the sponsor of this episode and the company that's revolutionizing how businesses like Astrid and Miyu manage their finances. Imagine a world where your team has the freedom to make spending decisions without the constant fear of overstepping boundaries. That's exactly what Payhawk has created for us at Astrid and Miyu. Here's the game changer. Payhawk's innovative spend controls. They've struck the perfect balance between empowering our team and maintaining financial oversight. It's like having a financial superhero cape, freedom to fly, but with a safety net firmly in place. How does this work? Our finance team sets pre-approved policies and approval workflows. These parameters create a clear framework within which our team can operate freely. No more second-guessing or constant approval requests. Our people know exactly what they can spend, where they can spend it, and how much, all pre-approved and hassle-free. This approach has fostered what Payhawk calls a healthy spend culture. It's transformed our operations. Instead of getting bogged down in financial red tape, we're free to focus on what truly matters, growing our business and delighting our customers. Curious to see if Payhawk can work the same magic for your business? There's a link in our show notes where you can book a demo. Don't forget to mention you heard about them on the Unboxed podcast. We can't thank Payhawk enough for supporting our show and for being a crucial part of Astrid and Miyu's growth story. So good to see you, Mollie IRL.
Thank you. I know.
We've been connected on Instagram ever since we kind of started following each other and you slid into my DM.
I know. I had to. I just felt like, I don't know, your brand resonated so much with me. So I was like, I need to make you a mug. I just see something
it's
like,
my
need to do
favorite
it.
mug ever.
Thank
and my
you.
kids know it as well. And ever since like we've been collaborating nonstop, between the two brands, I would love to hear all about you.
Yes.
Since I have you now. So where do we begin? So you've built this viral ceramics business called, a brand called Naetive. Yeah. Tell me how you got started. But before that, tell me about your background, everything about you.
Yeah. Well, I would say it's a short story because I'm only 2 years old so far with the business, but it's also a long story because I just feel like I've always been like an entrepreneur, really. I didn't even know what an entrepreneur was. I had to Google it when I was in uni. And then as soon as I Googled it, I was like, I resonate with this. I think I'm definitely an entrepreneur.
What is the definition of entrepreneur, by the way?
Just nonstop working on yourself, I guess. That's how I feel what an entrepreneur is. But yeah, someone who's just interested in business, someone who just, wants to work for themselves and just feels like they can give something to someone, to the world, I guess. But yeah, that's really how Naetive started. Like I've always kind of wanted to make things. So I did an interior design degree. And then realized that this was in Cardiff as well. And then I realized that all of the interior design jobs were in London and I wasn't prepared to move. So I was like, I'm just going to have to do something else. I ended up working for car insurance, which was like the next.
Completely different.
I know. But I was like, I finished uni and I was like, I need money. So I had to like quickly find a job. Admiral is like the insurance company that everyone goes to in Cardiff.
Very practical.
Yeah, it was good. But it meant that I could just do that 9 to 5. And then after 5, I could work on like what I actually wanted to do. So I was doing like freelance interior design. And then I realized then obviously we had COVID. So the freelance stuff just stopped immediately. Like, well, the world stopped, didn't it? So I was just basically chilling at home because everybody had to stay at home for ages. And I had 8 weeks of absolutely no work. Admiral would just wait for your laptop. So I was just wait for that. And that's when I was like, I've got time. So I started really working on like what I felt like I could give. I was trying to find like gaps and things like that in the market. And yeah, so I basically realized with all the time that I had that I was watching a lot of YouTube videos, watching a lot of like just going online, seeing Instagram. And everybody would share themselves online with a mug or like they'd be online on YouTube and they would just they'd be like, oh, go and grab a cup of tea and come and sit down with us and like, we'll vlog.
Yeah, classic COVID.
Yeah, classic COVID. And I just realized, I was like, their mug is not nice. Why is nice? No one got like a nice mug. And I just realized then, I was like, I think I can make a cute mug. So I just started playing with clay.
At this point, did you know how to make a mug?
No.
How did you learn it?
So basically, with YouTube, but I'd done a bit of ceramics whilst I was doing my interior design degree because it was all like a massive art school in Cardiff. So I'd kind of played in that area. Like I knew what I was doing and I'd always made stuff. We were quite hands-on in interior design. We had to like hand build models and things like that. So I knew kind of what I wanted to do with intricate details and things. But yeah, come COVID, I was like, I'm just going to learn how to make a mug. Couldn't afford a wheel, so I had to hand build a mug because wheels cost like £2,000. So, and plus it takes years to learn on a wheel. So I just grabbed a ball of clay and I just started making mugs and I just didn't stop until I was happy with something that I'd made. And it did take quite a while to actually get there. But yeah, as soon as I found out, I was like, I'm going to make this cute mug. I decided I wanted a baby. So I got pregnant.
And the mugs that you created back then, is it the same concept as what you have right now?
It is the same concept. It's more of like wabi-sabi. And wabi-sabi is where like you're just celebrating the imperfection of things. And I really felt like it was quite important to do that. And ceramics is quite unpredictable. And so you are just making things that are going to have like these really difficult, intricate parts that, they're not always going to look perfect. I wanted every mug to be unique and different. I felt like that's what I wanted Naetive to be. And because all of these other mugs that you could just buy from the shop, they're quite, I don't know, they don't make you look at them, they just look like other mugs. So I really wanted to make sure that every piece and everything I made was different. And so I had that vision in my head when I first started, and that's still stuck with me now, definitely.
And what happened to the baby? And then when did you properly restart the business? So
basically, when I'd kind of gotten comfortable with actually making mugs, I thought, I'm going to have a baby now. It's like the perfect time. So like impromptu. But I just knew I wanted to get pregnant when I was 26. I don't know why I've always just had this thing in my head of have a baby when I'm 26. So I was 26. So I'm just gonna try for a baby. And then
you're a planner.
Yeah. I'm a planner.
You need things a certain way. 26 do this, 27 do this.
I know. I feel like it's the only way I feel like I have some kind of control over something. But yeah, I felt like basically I'm gonna have a baby when I'm 26, and then what I'm gonna do is use my maternity leave to actually work on the business, like actually launch the business. So and it was COVID time, so I'd had quite a bit of time at home to already kind of get a feel about like what I wanted to do, like what gaps were in the market at the moment, and what I felt like I could make that was needed for the world. And then when I was pregnant, I thought, right now I've got 9 months to actually come up with a business plan so that when I'm on maternity leave, I then have 9 months, because my maternity leave was 9 months, to execute the plan that I make when I'm pregnant. So it basically just worked out. Like I made the plan when I was pregnant, and I had like months for like the goals that I was going to hit. So I was going to
wow.
like launch in the June. And then
So it did go as planned.
It did go as planned.
Oh, wow. I never hear this, by the way. I didn't have a business plan when I launched Astrid and Miyu.
Yeah.
So what did the plan look like?
So I actually still have the piece of paper. I took a picture of it. But the plan, I'll show it to you later.
What an overachiever.
It's weird though, because I never was when I was in school. It's almost like this entrepreneurial vibe that I had was what I needed. Like I needed the freedom to do what I wanted to do because I felt like I was going to do well if I was just allowed to do that. Whereas in school, I really felt like I was having to be told what to do. And so I wasn't able to like really reach my potential because like I didn't want to do geography and other things like that. So but I did excel in the arts side of school. But yeah, so basically when I was pregnant, I thought, right, I'm going to have my baby in December because that was his due date. So then I knew then when I to be honest, I didn't give myself any pressure. Like I was having a baby, like I knew I had to give myself a bit of a break. But as soon as he was born, I kind of had a routine for him to kind of sleep and things like that, which helped. And he was a good sleeper, which
That's
I don't
amazing.
know.
You need to give some lessons on sleep training. Maybe that's a separate episode.
I know. Well, I wasn't sure whether it was like, whether he was just a good sleeper and I'd hit the nail on the head with that, or whether it was like the routine that I'd kind of started off with that helped. So I couldn't say. It might be completely different with my second, but that was the plan, and it actually worked. So I started feeling comfortable to like start making mugs again when he was about 10 weeks old, and then I remember only having like 15 minutes to make a mug because he would only sleep for like, he'd have a nap for like 15 minutes. But the good thing about clay was that like you could wrap it up with plastic and leave it and then come back to it afterwards. So I never really had any pressure to like, like it wasn't going to dry up too much or anything. I could just cover it in plastic. I can, play with him for the rest of the day until his next nap. And then I could just carry on making the mugs. So it was really slow progress.
And how many would you make a day? Or like how long would it take to make one?
It would probably take me like sometimes 2 days to make one mug. But I was still in kind of that like learning phase of like what I really wanted to do. So I wasn't putting too much pressure on myself. And I was making a lot of mistakes because I didn't know ceramics. Like I hadn't properly learned it. So I was making the mugs and then they were all cracking in the kiln and they were like the glaze was too thick and stuff like that. So it was quite a long learning process. But I think because I was a bit naive going into something that I'd never done before with no experience, I was able to learn a lot quicker by making those mistakes. I think
that's the best way.
Yeah.
If you know too much, I think that's a poison pill.
You can like avoid doing stuff, whereas like I spent like so much money on glaze and wasted the whole thing because I didn't actually know how to use it, which was just so silly. Like most people would be like, why would you do that? But I then learned how to do it because I knew not how to do it, if you know what I mean. So I think before I launched the business, I must have spent about £700 because I'd given myself a maternity business budget to use. Yeah. So I'd made sure like that was all planned. And so as soon as I'd like reached that £700 mark, I started selling them. And then the 1 or 2 cups that I'd sold actually paid for the next bag of clay. So then I just used that bag. And so then I was no longer using my own money then.
So going back to the business plan, aside from the manufacturing or like the making of the mugs, what else did you have in it?
So with the business plan, basically, I had like these monthly goals. So I had to learn how to work Shopify and set up a business and take orders because I knew I didn't want to go on Etsy. I knew that wasn't the place for me and I didn't want the brand. And that's where like you would find most places. And I think I knew at that point I needed to stand out a little bit more because I didn't want to get lost in Etsy.
Yeah. So brand building was important for you.
Yeah. And I knew I wanted it to be like handmade, homemade. And that's where the word native came because native is like, that's what it means. Like it's homemade and it's from where you are and it's just that feeling of home. So I really wanted that to represent in the brand. So I just made the logo myself, learned a lot about like marketing and where I was going to be distributing this in the future and making sure that when I was building the brand that's where I was heading. It's weird because it's like it all came from the heart. So it's like I planned it all, but then I did also kind of I did what felt right at the same time. So the plan was to launch the business in July. and it was the 19th of July. And that was my first ever drop, which was mostly just family and friends that had ordered. But part of the business plan was to actually get my story out there from the very beginning. So when I knew I was going to launch the brand, I made an Instagram account, and I basically just, on my first ever post, which you can still see now is basically like me explaining how I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm starting a pottery business. This is how I'm going to do it. And so every other day I would post like, oh, I've just bought a new logo, and I've just built my Instagram logo, and then I just built my website.
People love having a sneak peek into a small business, don't they?
Yeah. I think as well, like you learn so much just by like having a look at what everyone else has done. Because I feel like you don't really see things from the very beginning. You only really see companies that are like doing really well straight away. But I've tried to keep that story. So like you might have to scroll quite a while, but if you scroll down, the brand story is at the very bottom of my Instagram page, and like exactly how I started.
Yeah,
and
and
how
you've done so well in brand building. In a span of 2.5 years, which is very short, you have over 100,000 followers on Instagram. Is that right? And it's highly engaged. People love the brand. I can see like there's so many likes, so many comments. I mean, not that like you're necessarily looking for it, but validation is important as well. So how did you build that up? Was there a milestone for you?
No, I never gave myself the pressure of like making sure like followers and engagement was like a massive thing up until recently. But when I first started, it was more about like, I'm just going to share what I'm doing. And I'm just going to share it naturally. I'm going to share how I make the mugs, what they mean to me, what they mean to the customers. Because I've been making some like really intricate mugs for customers that like, they really meant like something really special. Like we'd made some with like some little halos on top, you know, we've made some like really lovely things with all their family members, and it would be like a joke that their granddad used to say, and they'd have it customized on the mug. And so when I was making these mugs, I'm just going to film me making it, and then it's just really showing exactly what like the brand is and what we want to do and how I want it to come across, basically. So yeah, that was it. And I just feel like people have just picked it up. And then we've just had some really amazing influencers. And well, I call them influencers, but most of them are genuine customers who've just purchased and shared, and they've just been really supportive and like sharing the brand. And so that's just like propelled us into...
people can see the authenticity.
Yeah, that was my main thing, because, you know, we just make them in a little studio in Pontypridd. And so, yeah, it's just been amazing to see it.
Yeah, and speaking of manufacturing and production, you told me earlier that you have 12 people working for you making ceramics. And I don't know, like when I saw your Instagram, because you're so personal, everything's so personal, I thought it was you making everything. And I was like, how the hell does she make all of those ceramics and take all those orders? So how did you build that production team?
Yeah, so I started realizing basically with my drops and with the emails that I was getting and the messages, there was just no way of me physically being able to make all of them. And then me being like a people pleaser, I was like, don't worry, I can make that for you. So I'd like take all the orders. I took far too many orders, and I was like, I'm not going to be able to do this. So that's when I was like, I need to get help. So I just started teaching people to help me make them, basically. It started off with like family, and now we've got some external people in as well. But yeah, just teaching them exactly how I want the mugs to be made. And so they're all made in exactly the same way. They're still all handmade. And we add all the intricate gems and things like that. So you would never be able to tell like who made the mug or anything like that, because they're just so amazing. Like all of the people that work for us are so great. So that's when I started realizing that I'm not going to be able to do this on my own. And it's not going to be the brand that I want it to be if I try and make them all myself. Like, how am I supposed to? It was taking me 5 days to make 15 mugs. And, you know, like yesterday we had like 30 orders, you know, just in one day. So it's like there was never going to be any growth if I had that mindset of like, I'm just going to do it all myself. So it was really that point of like, as much as I want to make mugs all day, I can't.
Yeah, and ultimately you're an entrepreneur, as you said.
Yeah.
Not a ceramics maker, right?
Yeah.
Although you are as well.
Well, so, I feel like I've learned it now, but that was not like what I intended to do.
So how do you split your time between, I guess, like your child, family, making the mugs or making the ceramics and running the business and building a brand?
I would say it's like the most chaotic thing I've ever done in my life.
Honest answer.
Yeah, like I just feel like I was gonna ask you. I don't know. I feel like I'm just doing as much as I physically can without crying every day.
Aww.
In like the best way, I guess. But yeah, I feel
Do you have
like
family close by that are helping?
yeah, kind of. I've got my brothers, but like they're all working for Native now, so I don't really have help with Rio. But he is in nursery, so he's in nursery from 9 till 3. And then so I've got like the 9 till 3, so I'm just trying to be like as productive as I can in that time. And then at home then I'll just give him 100% of my attention, so then I don't have the mum guilt of not giving him as much attention. Then when he goes to bed, I'm just working in the evening or sleeping, and then I'll try and get up super early as well. But I guess it's just a non-stop. And then there's also delegating. So like I do have my partner, he's helping me loads. So he's basically doing all of the operations side of things. Yeah. So he's like running and managing all of the teams. Well, all the teams, we've got one team. He's
the production team.
Yeah, so he's running the production team, and he's basically
that's amazing. You keep everything in the family.
Yeah. It's been really nice. It's been difficult with family because obviously you have that part where you're trying to tell them your vision, and they're just like, but I want to do it this way.
Yeah.
Like,
so what are the challenges of working with your family or your family working for you?
It has been really difficult, I think, because they care so much. And I think that's the problem, is they care so much that they don't want you to like make a mistake. But I'm like, I want to make mistakes. So
what's an example?
An example, I don't know. I guess I'm the type of person that is like, I want to make 150 of this type of mug, and like I haven't probably thought how we're going to make it, who's going to be helping me make them, if it's even like the best design to put out there or something. I just get super excited about making something. And so they might be like, look, it's not realistic, or why don't we go for this design? And so we kind of just have like these little bits of arguments, but I guess we're just learning how to work together, because I've gone from...
But that's a great thing if you can leverage it, right? Because you have different opinions, different ideas that you can really...
Yeah, and it's been really difficult for me to kind of learn that as well, because I want to learn, I want everybody to have, like, to feel like they can really be their own type of person in Native, and like, make their own mugs, for example. And like, if we love it, like, let's just make more of them. But then it started off like with me just making this like one thing. And so I've had to, and because it grew so quickly, I've had to be like, okay, I can't make mugs anymore. I have to basically delegate that. And then, so then it's like you delegate so much, and it's like, how much control have I actually let go of, and how much do I have for it to still be Native? Because I still want it to be like my vision. Yeah. But then if you give so much away, does it start changing into something that you don't want it to be? Yeah. And I think that's some of the arguments that we've had as a family, of like their vision against my vision. And I'm like, but it's not Native if we do it that way. Yeah. So, but they've been really, really respectful about like how I do want things to be done. It's quite easy to ask someone that isn't your family member, or someone that you don't know very well, to be like, look, this is how I want it done. But for a family member, they're like, yeah, but I don't like that. They're just straight up, like, they'll just tell you, and it's like, thanks. So it's been a learning curve, but it's been a good one, because I feel like learning all those problems early on, working with family, is like, I feel like I can manage people a little bit better now, because I know like how difficult it can be to have awkward conversations. And so in the future, luckily I haven't had to have many, but
do you think it's harder to have awkward conversations with family or with, I guess, non-family members of staff? Do you have non-family members of staff?
Yeah, so we've got non-family members now too. We haven't had to have any awkward conversations with non-family members yet, but I guess I'm prepared, if I could say so. I've had to have some like, and as well, it's like I have to sit down and I'm not the sister when we're sitting down and having these conversations.
Yeah, it can get very complicated.
It can, because it's like they're like, I'm your brother and I'm helping and it's great. But it's like right now, it's like, this is what we need to do. And I can't be a sister right now. I have to be, the CEO or like the designer or like the marketer, like because you wear so many different hats, and so it's hard to take the hat off and be like, how am I supposed to run a business being a sister? Like, so I have to be A little bit ruthless.
Yeah. And I'm assuming you don't have your insurance job anymore.
No.
When did you quit?
So yeah, I basically quit that. As soon as I realized that like every drop was selling out within about 5 minutes, and I knew it was
every
a
drop
lot.
was how many pieces at that time?
So it was about 50 pieces, and it would take me a while to make them.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was going really well, but people were getting so annoyed. And like if we go back to when I started realizing I needed to employ people, was when they were selling out so quickly as well. That was another key thing. Was like. People were getting annoyed with me because they'd all go and they'd be like, I've been waiting on the website for like an hour and they went and I was like, I'm so sorry.
I mean, I guess great problem.
It's a great problem. But that's why we never put any money towards like advertisement or marketing that much. Like this was all just organic growth.
Yeah.
So it was a really great problem to have. And then obviously I left Admiral because I realized that I was not going to go back, basically. And I hadn't finished my maternity leave. So as soon as I'd finished my maternity leave, I was like, there's no physical way of me going back. So I just stopped. And they were really appreciative of it, actually. They were really nice. But yeah, when I started employing people and we had all those orders, it was like, okay, now we have to like teach people how to make them.
How did you know how to put the systems in?
Just absolutely winging it.
YouTube, Google.
Yeah. And a lot of just making a lot of mistakes, but being quick to fix them. I think that's the main thing, is like acknowledging, okay, this doesn't work. Or like, we were getting some orders in and some spelling mistakes were coming through. Like we were making spelling mistakes. And it's like, okay, well, we haven't got a system where the customization is laid out properly. So then we had to like edit the way that we print out the labels to get the tickets with all the customization on. And then, we were putting them on the shelf and then they weren't dated. Or they were, some customers were ordering before others and we were making them all at once, putting them on the shelf, but the shelf wasn't dated. So we didn't know which one. So like we were just basically making a lot of mistakes in a very short time and just completely systemizing constantly.
Yeah, I guess it's so hard to know what kind of mistakes will come through unless you've done it, right?
Yeah.
It's all trial and error.
Exactly. And it's like, who was I supposed to look at that was doing something similar? Like I had no idea who was doing something like this to learn from. So I was just, for inspiration, was looking at like other companies like Starbucks and how they were making their orders. So like they would have a fully customized coffee and they'd be at the till, they'd write down the orders, they'd put it on the cup and then they'd send it and then it would get made. So, I was like, we need something like that. Like we're doing the same thing, just in a much more detailed way. So that's where the inspiration of getting the orders through onto some kind of ticket system that was dated and trackable, and then reflect what we had on Excel on the shelves in like physical forms. It was all organized. And then, just having people that are like willing to like stay late to help put it together. Like a lot of
family and partner.
i.e. family. Yeah. And some really close friends that were just absolutely grinding and helping us because we were getting really busy. Like Mollie May shared us once and we were just completely overwhelmed with orders.
Yeah, tell me about that experience. That's amazing.
Yeah, so it was absolutely insane because the first time she shared us was really nice. I basically gifted her sister.
And when was this? And is this when the brand went viral?
Yeah, well, I would say it was before I even had a unit or like any employees. So this is when I was just making them by myself, and I had just made her a cute mug with Bambi written on it as just like a present, as like a congratulations for having Bambi and like, love you, because I was watching her on YouTube all the time. So I was like, I'm just going to make this really cute mug and send it over. And I was really fortunate to be sending Zoe some stuff anyway. So I thought I'm just going to throw it all together. But I did not think about her sharing. It wasn't part of, I didn't think she was going to share. She doesn't really share that much anyway. So I was like, I'm just going to send it to her. Didn't think anything of it. And then I think it might have been 2 weeks later, like my phone just absolutely blew up and I had no idea what was going on. And I didn't have like employees or a system to take orders at that point. I had Shopify, but everything was sold out because everything would sell out in 5 minutes anyway. So I didn't have a way of taking orders. So I had about 40,000 people on the website and like nothing to sell. And I was just absolutely gutted because I was like, what?
Wow.
I've got all these customers that want things and I can't.
Did you manage to capture their emails?
Yeah. So I very quickly managed to put a sign up email on my Instagram. And then I also turned off the website. So it automatically goes to the password page. And so everybody who's jumping on. And then I obviously had started planning a drop. So I just popped everything there. So I managed to capture loads of emails, which was great. I was just, that triggered
40,000 people on the website. That's incredible.
It's a lot. Like it was a lot. And yeah, over the course of like the 24 hours that she'd shared us, we had like 25,000 followers, and my phone was just roasting for like a whole 24 hours. So how long the story lasts. And I was just like, this is insane. And then, so I just knew then, I was like, we need to make sure that if we're ever in this position again, that we can actually like take these orders. And that's where throwing myself into like this manufacturing side was like, this is where we need to go. Like, it just basically was like, we're not gonna grow if we don't have these systems in place, because there's so much potential for us. And it just, all it needed was a good system, basically. Yeah. So she actually ended up sharing us again, and I had all the systems ready on that day.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah,
well
so
done.
that was really good. And then, yeah, we just basically have just not stopped since, really.
And what's been the biggest challenge for you?
Oh, wow. I would say I have a couple of really big challenges. I would say being a mother in business is probably one of my biggest ones, because I think it just comes with guilt that's like really unnecessary. But, you know, and I know he's going to be so proud of me when he grows up and sees everything that we're making and stuff. But I just see him and I just want to stay and play with him. And I want to stay at home and like cook food, and the house is a mess because I don't have time to clean it. And I when I first started the whole thing, and when Rio was tiny, I said to Evie, I was like, we're either going to have a business or a clean house. Like, we're not going to have both, because it's just not going to happen. And it still is that way. But at least we have a business and not a clean house. But that was
I think it's better to have a happy mom.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And like, it's like you just can't physically do everything. And I think I've been trying, and that's what's been a challenge, is I've been trying to make sure there's food on the table at 5, trying to make sure the house is clean, trying to make sure all the washing is done and the dishes are done. And I think that's when you're like this small anyway, and you're just on the cusp of growing your business, it is those sacrifices that you do have to let go of. Because it's like, I need to work. Like, I need to sit on my laptop and I need to work.
But it's funny that women are the only ones who have these kinds of guilt. Do you think your partner has that guilt?
I think he just doesn't mind having a messy house. I think that's the thing with him, is like he helps so much as well with cleaning. But there's obviously like he's like, I want to go to work too. So we're both arguing about who's going to go to work. So funny. So he'll go to the studio and he'll stay late. You know, like he's like sorting out all the operations and coming up with like cost-effective solutions, and just sorting loads of things out that end. And I don't want to say no, because the business needs it. So, but I think he just has this idea of like, it doesn't matter if we have a messy house, which is nice for me. Whereas, but I think I'm just deep down, I'm like,
yeah, so you're putting the pressure on yourself.
Yeah, I'm putting the pressure on myself, definitely. But I guess it's just one of those things where I'm like, I'm just going to shut that off for now, because, you know, we're only 2.5 years old and it's not going to be a messy house forever. Rio isn't going to be this small forever. So I think learning to prioritize next challenge is basically looking at Rio and thinking like, he's not going to be this small for that long. I'm going to prioritize spending time with him when he's awake, and I'm going to prioritize work when I'm not with him. And that's how I'm living at the moment. Just those two things.
And what's the other challenge that you had? Just
not knowing what I'm doing. Because
like, you're doing such an amazing job.
Thank you. I think it's the planning though. You know, like when it was just me, I didn't have to worry about like everybody else getting paid. And I was like, there was no risk. So I was happily able to be like, I'm going to spend all of my time building this business and building the website, and there's no loss for me, because it's like all it is my time, right? And my the money that I put into it, which was about £700. And worst case scenario was like, I'm just going to go back to Admiral if it doesn't work. And so I was able to like confidently make those decisions. Whereas now it's like, I can't spend all of the money on things like massive new production systems that we need and things like that, because we've got obviously loads of employees. So it's like, I have to be really careful. And I think
you have to be responsible for other people's lives.
Exactly. And I really want to make sure that I'm doing that right. whilst also building the business in the right direction. Like I want to make sure that everything's right. And so I've kind of started not doubting myself. I have this confidence issue now where I'm like, I think I need some direction because I've come to a point where it's like this, that I've done this much, but I do want to scale it. I want it to grow bigger. I feel like it could be absolutely massive and I have so many plans, but I'm like,
what is the vision?
The vision, I think...
If there were no constraints.
If there was no constraints, it would be having a store with experience. So you're able to come in to a Naetive store and you can make your own mugs. We have workshops. We work with other brands. We also have teams that can go out to like schools and other companies and have other workshops like that. And basically, yeah, just having a massive... huge place where we're just everywhere. And it's just making customized handmade mugs or customized handmade pottery in general more accessible. I think it's quite difficult and I don't think it's been done in the way that I envision it really. And then it's like, who do I go to ask for help with that? Because it's like, I don't think what I want to do has been done in the way that I want to do it, to the scale that I want to do it anyway.
Yeah. Is there a comparable brand? Even if it's not handmade, like in pottery or
I don't know. I feel like there are loads of potters. And I think this is like I love the idea of Lash. Like I always look at other brands that aren't pottery based and try and, like Astrid and Miyu, like going into your brand where you have an experience. So you get to go and you get to feel like you get to see the jewelry, feel the jewelry, you have to put it on. It's a whole experience where you're going around and you're talking to the people and it's just really nice and homely. And I want to make that pottery wise. And the potters that I see is what, the studio is like basically, which is just like super messy. It's like super...
workshop / studio / store, right?
And I just want to turn that pretty. I want to make it pretty and I want to make it more accessible, like a household name where you can just go and be like, oh, we're going to go make mugs with Naetive this weekend. Something that's just like really quick
I'll
and
definitely
simple.
go.
I think it would be so fun. That's the vision. That's where I'm heading. I just don't know how to get there. I do.
That's so exciting. Do you have one advice you'd give to an aspiring entrepreneur?
I guess I would say like just make as many mistakes as you can. I think at the moment I'm like, I'm not scared to make mistakes. I'm like really happy to make mistakes, but I was so much more confident making mistakes before and I'm really glad I did that. Now it's a little bit different because you don't want to make mistakes when you've got like loads of people relying on you. But when you're first starting, it's like just try everything, like throw everything you can at the wall and wait for something to stick. That's like the best thing I would say.
Great advice. Completely agree. Thank you so much, Mollie. That was so fun.
Thank you so much. That
was really good. Yeah. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to follow the podcast wherever you're listening or watching. You can follow me at Connie Nam, Astrid and Miyu at Astrid and Miyu, and the Unboxed Instagram page at unboxed_founder confidential. See you next week.